Welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, a podcast where nostalgia comes alive. Together, Jake and his friends interview talents varying from actors, directors, writers, producers, composers, puppeteers, and so much more. Who will they be chatting with today? Find out in this Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode.
Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, where nostalgia comes alive. I'm your host, Jake Deffinbaugh, and as always, our co-hosts, Chris Bixby, Wyatt and McCullough, Matt Bingel, and his pal Marty Monster. How you guys doing?
Amazing.
Hi.
We are great.
Good.
How are
you doing?
Yes, doing great.
Well,
Well,
I will say for this episode, it is a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Yes.
Yes,
That
Yes,
is one
indeed.
thing
It
I will
is.
definitely say.
yep.
You'll see why.
Oh,
Yes.
well, you guys make me feel welcome. I haven't been introduced yet, have I?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Jake's about to.
Which I'm about to right
He's
now.
about to though.
Jake's about to do that. Who do we have today?
Who do we have
Well,
today?
today's guest, we have a singer, and he's a part of a show that we all grew up with, Mr. Watch's Neighborhood. He was Officer Clemmons, and here he is.
François Clemmons.
Yep.
Yep.
How are you?
Yep.
Hey.
Hello, how are you doing?
Well, I'm fine. I'm happy to be in such good company. I have to ask, where are you guys living? Where do you live?
Ohio.
Massachusetts.
I'm in
And
Ohio.
you guys live in
You're an
Maryland.
outlier. Where does Matt live?
I live
Both
in
me and Matt
Maryland.
live in Maryland.
Yeah, they live in
He does.
Maryland. I'm in Ohio.
Different
Right
part,
now, you're in Ohio?
Yeah, that's where I
Where?
live.
Where?
Columbus. Yeah, there you go.
I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Fairly
Yes.
nice.
Yes, and I know a lot of, different places around the state because I went to Oberlin College for my bachelor's degree. So
Yeah.
that's just up the hill from you. Let's see, I did a wedding in Mansfield. I sang with the Columbus, I don't know whether it was the Youth Symphony, but
Yeah.
a symphony orchestra there.
Nice.
And my sister went to Methesco Seminary for Methodist Seminary.
Yeah.
Well, I spent a lot of time in Kenyon College.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've been to Kenyon College and I like it very much. And then all that stuff up north, the Cleveland Orchestra, the Cleveland, I sang with them a number of times years ago.
Oh, nice.
And Baldwin Wallace and Bowling Green and so many wonderful, wonderful colleges that you don't have the glaring light of the East Coast where everybody wants to be a wannabe Ivy League school. But
Yeah.
you've got this incredible supply of wonderful undergraduate institutions. And my 3 cheers for Ohio. Indiana is close by. Next.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome. So to
Yeah.
get that started, we know who you are, but to the people who don't know who you are, can you care enough to tell a bit more about yourself?
Well, first of all, let me get there. I have written a wonderful book, forgive me, called
Yeah.
Officer Clemmons. It was published on Catapult Publishers in 2000. And 2020. I think you guys ought to get a copy of it, and then you'll understand some of why I am the way I am. First of all, I have a lot of Southern traits because my family was in Birmingham and Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Oh, wow.
And that's really where I was born in Birmingham, actually. And then we lived in Tuscaloosa and different parts of Alabama. But
Yeah.
my family migrated up to Ohio to work in the steel mills, the car manufacturers, all things to do with making tires
Yeah.
and that kind of work. They had been sharecroppers
Wow.
down in Alabama, and that proved to be a tremendous disaster and not just my family, lots of families. So they wanted to get off of the farm or the plantation and do something else with their lives. And well, I'll have to turn that down so we're not interrupted.
All right.
I'm sorry, very
That's
sorry,
fine.
gentlemen.
Well,
That is
okay.
okay.
It's
That's all
okay.
right.
It's fine.
That's all right.
A lot of times my friends all know that I'm doing like this. I send out a little notice and sometimes they actually don't read them. They say, "Oh, did you say that?" Yes, go back and find the email. where I told you I'm doing a Zoom session at 1 o'clock on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Don't call me. And they don't usually.
After you
Yeah.
eat,
Yeah,
put the trash in.
exactly.
Can you collect the
Exactly.
trash?
Anyway.
Put the trash out on the road.
Mhm.
Well, okay, back to my introducing myself.
Mhm.
So I was born in Birmingham, and then my family moved to Youngstown, Ohio. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, it was a very turbulent life. And I'm glad I survived it.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that I survived it was through singing and music.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I came to the attention of several very, very fine, meaningful people who said, you should have a musical education. So I studied privately. What?
I think that's on
Anyway.
somebody else's
What?
side.
Oh,
Anyway.
I studied voice singing privately while I was in high school because a wonderful social work lady, she heard me sing
Yeah.
and said, do you want voice lessons, music lessons? And I said, Lord, yes, but my family could not afford it. And she said, if you promise to be dependable and reliable and attend and work, I will pay for them. Well, that was the magic word. The idea that somebody was going to pay for them, I was going to be doing something I loved tremendously.
Wow.
But anyway, she very generously did that for me. And I remember talking with her and saying, later on, why did you do that for me? Why were you so kind? And she said, it's because you're you. I feel something between us. And I want to ask you for one favor. I thought, what the heck is that? And she said, pass it on one day to someone else.
There you go.
And remember that I did that for you and that there were no strings attached. And that really has, no pun intended, but it's colored my life. It's framed how I respond and how I reach to people because a complete stranger was so nice to me. And it lasted a long time. When I graduated from Oberlin and went to Carnegie Mellon, and she was in my life. And I went out to Los Angeles to do Porgy and Bess, and she flew out there also so that she heard me sing Sport and Life and stuff. So it was a really rough upbringing, but I began to find people like her. And as you read the book, you'll find there were some other individuals who, the principal from my high school helped me raise the money from the Oberlin Alumni Club.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And that club sponsored me for the first year at Oberlin.
Oh, wow.
And then Oberlin College gave me a full ride right after that. So,
Yeah.
Nice, really nice.
Mhm.
So
That's awesome.
we talked a little bit about this already, but so before you were Officer Clemmons, of course, you were a singer. What kind of got you into it? What kind of got you into singing?
well, I've always sung. Like when I was a little boy in the book, I talk about my grandfather, Saul,
Oh, wow.
who used to take me, he was my babysitter.
Mm.
And so he took me out and about on it wasn't a plantation in the traditional sense that they had slaves, but the plantation where my family was doing, work for money so that they could stay there. Sharecropping, they call it.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so my father was very young when he got married, and my mother was very young, and they quarreled seriously, terrible quarreling, so that my great-grandmother and my grandfather-in-law eventually took us out of that environment, and that's why we decided different members of the family would move to Youngstown, Ohio, to Columbus, Ohio,
Yeah.
to Detroit, to the cities up north where they have factories they could work in. What they wanted to be able to do is work during the daytime, and at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, you could go home. And, you earn money. In fact, you earn quite a bit more than you did down doing sharecropping. And it made them feel like they were their own boss, that they were making some important decisions about their lives and not dependent on a sharecropper overseer who still considered them partially almost his slaves. He didn't pay them well, and they all wanted to leave. So first chance they got, they all, at different times, but they all left eventually.
Yeah.
Nice. So who were some of your inspirations, like singing inspirations?
Well, I guess one of the main ones was Mahalia Jackson. She was a gospel singer. I had my great-grandmother and my grandmother on my stepfather's side used to go to Deffinbaugh Auditorium in Youngstown, Ohio. And Mahalia Jackson would come there on Sundays as the special guest of Catherine Kuhlman. Now, Catherine Kuhlman was a very, very famous healer. She would preach, and she was psychic, and she would have people come down to the stage and do laying on of hands and prayer for them. And many, many people were healed of cancer or whatever, migraine headaches, things having to do with birth. Catherine Kuhlman seemed to have the special divine touch. Well, her special guest frequently was Mahalia Jackson. They had a very close friendship. And I sat in the first row in Deffinbaugh Auditorium because I wanted to hear Mahalia Jackson sing. I can't tell you how powerful it was to be right under this lady, looking up at her, and she was singing How I Got Over.
Yeah.
How I got over. My soul looks back and wonders how I got over.
Wow.
Anyway, that was the first big influence. The second musical one was Marian Anderson. Now, Marian Anderson was a lady from Philadelphia, and she sang literally all over the world. And she was known for singing American Negro spirituals. So it's like I said to myself, I'm going to grow up and sing spirituals just like Marian Anderson. And what I liked about her was she did not use a microphone when she sang. She sang with a pianist in a concert hall. The concert hall could seat 1,000 people, and her voice would just roll out. And I thought, oh my God, this is wonderful. So I began to do research and discovered that there was a tenor named Roland Hayes, who also sang spirituals and was quite famous. He traveled all over the world. And in addition to Roland Hayes, there was Paul Robeson. He was a bass baritone, a big, powerful voice, who had gone to Columbia University, I think, and Rutgers, got his master's and his degree in law. And he also did some acting and stuff. But as it turns out, he was a very, very powerful singer of spirituals and other folk songs. What I discovered was that Paul Robeson was probably the first American or anybody to sing a whole program of nothing but American Negro spirituals. Well, that was very impressive. I love this repertoire. I've always loved it. And I've always included it in songs. If I did a program of Russian songs, I also sang some spirituals. If I sang all French songs for a special program or all Italian, towards the end I would sing 3, 4, 5, 6, depending on the audience and the occasion. And I found them to be very, very successful. But I was basing a lot of my life on the memory and the inspiration I got from Roland Hayes and from Marian Anderson and from Paul Robeson and Leontine Price. She was the other one.
Yeah.
Lord have mercy, Leontine Price. She was a legitimate opera singer who knocked down a lot of racial doors where black people had not sung or could not sing, and on the highest international level. She was a great, great artist who broke through. In many ways, Marian Anderson and Paul Robeson, they were held back. But Leontine, they couldn't hold back if they wanted the real thing and the excellent, the magnificent. Oh, what a wonderful singer. I used to listen to her sing on recordings in those days, hour after hour after hour. I couldn't get enough.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really nice. So why don't you ask the next question?
Yeah, and that technically answers the second question also. Third one, if you know what I mean.
What one?
The third one.
Well, yeah, I asked who was
Yeah,
it.
true. What was it like performing with the Metropolitan Opera?
Well, here's the thing. Technically, I never performed with the Metropolitan Opera.
Oh wow.
I sang with the Metropolitan Opera Studio, which was their second traveling company of young people who I had won the Met auditions in Pittsburgh, and they
Yeah.
had given me this as a prize. So I was there, and for 7 years, I sang with the professional company, who many of us were expected to move upstairs, as they say, to the big house
Yeah.
and sing in the big famous Metropolitan Opera. I was there all the time. Now,
Mhm.
it's too complicated to explain why I really never sang solo as at the Metropolitan Opera. But they were very helpful to me, and I did a lot of singing in the house of List Hall. It was another concert hall. And I sang a lot in List Hall because the general manager, his name was John Gutman, did some performances where he invited special guests to come into the hall and listen to these concerts he would give. He'd do maybe 2 or 3 a year. And I became a regular on as one of the people he would call and say, would you come to List Hall and sing whatever we decided the repertoire was going to be? So I sang in the house, but never actually on the big stage. And as I say, it's too complicated.
Yeah.
Mm.
I could tell.
So
Matt or Marty, how about you take the next one?
yeah,
Yeah. I'll ask a human. Okay. If you want to ask a question, go ahead. So you had brought up Porgy and Bess earlier, which actually won a Grammy.
Yeah.
I did. That was like a thunderously wonderful experience. First of all, it was exciting to just to audition for this conductor, Lorne Mizell, who was having auditions in New York City, and I was in California, and I flew back to New York, and I got called up, and I got an appointment, and I went down to the special place in New York where he was having the auditions. Now, here's the thing. Lorne Mizell was considered a great American conductor, like Leonard Bernstein was, one of them. Many people for a long time, I won't go into the details, but James Levine was sort of considered one of the great American conductors. But Lorne Mizell had this, wherever he went, he raised the level of the orchestra significantly. Well, the Cleveland Orchestra was going to do the first recording of Porgy and Bess from cover to cover. George Gershwin wrote it about 1935, and the opera was for a cast of black people. And he had been commissioned from the Metropolitan Opera. And when he finished the score and showed it to them, and they paid him the $10,000 or whatever dollars for the commission, and they said, no, thank you. We're not going to be doing this production. And he said, why not? And they said, we don't have any black people singing in the house. Now, that was like 1935.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until 1985, I think it was, that they actually did a production at the Metropolitan Opera. Now, I got interested because I went to see movies, and one of the movies was with Sidney Poitier and Dorothy Dandridge and Pearl Bailey and Sammy Davis Jr. They were the icons in those days who had made it in show business and were considered stars. And so I wanted to be like them. When I saw them up in the movie theater, I looked up there and I thought, oh my God, I want to be like that someday. I want to be in performing and singing. And I mean, I remember one day I was in New York after I had auditioned for Lorne Mizell, and he had said, yes, he hired me to do Sport in Life. I thought, this is my dream come true. This is what I dreamed about when I was just a boy in Youngstown, because I was doing the role of Sport in Life. I did it in Cleveland, Toledo, Columbus, everywhere, Springfield, New York. I sang Porgy and Bess, both in America and abroad. And it was such a sense of accomplishment, and I'm very, very grateful to have had the opportunity. I have a little funny something to tell you guys. I told you about, I went to a special place to sing for Lauren Mazel. Well, when I sang for him, I did the best job I possibly could.
Yeah.
It was like a performance. When it was over, the gentleman who was running it, Terry McEwen, said, François, can you come down and speak with Lauren Mazel? He wants to have a word with you. And I thought this was very unusual. After an audition, you don't get to talk to the conductor or the producer or the director unless they're really interested in you. And I thought, well, what does he want? So I go walk down, and next time I said, how do you do? We introduce ourselves. He was absolutely had the kindest, but he was wearing sunglasses. And I thought, well, what is this guy? So he took his sunglasses off. He said, I want to see you to see me, and I want to see you. He said, you were the only person who came here in 5 days of auditions, who sang the part of Sport and Life as a singer. Everyone else danced. They had lots of involved choreography. Well, if you're going to make a record, audio recording, you want someone who you can hear, who can sing the notes.
Yeah,
definitely.
I only did a minimum of improvisation. There was definitely room for some improv, but I basically sang. He said, you're the only one who sang the notes that Gershwin printed. And he said, I'm very excited to have you on board. I'll be in touch with you. But before you go, may I have your autograph? I said, my autograph?
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yes, he said, I know who you are. You're Officer Clemmons. And he said, I have a 5-year-old kid at home whose name is Sean. And he said, if I go home and tell Sean that Officer Clemmons sang for me and I didn't get his autograph, I'm going to have to sleep on the couch for the rest of the summer. He said, would you please sign? He had a thing there. And Sean was SEAN. Would you sign this to Sean? You are my friend. You are special. Officer François Clemmons. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That is amazing.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
The thing was, it took a while for him to chat with me and to eventually ask for my autograph. So when I went outside, because this is in a special room, when I went back outside, everyone said, what were you guys doing? What took so long? How come you were in there? And they were so curious as to why my audition lasted. Because sometimes in the middle of a song, Maestro would hold up his hand and say, thank you very much. Next.
Yeah.
Which was not very polite. But they didn't let everybody sing all the way through.
Wow. That's really special. That's really special. So now, how did you get the role of Officer Clemmons on Miss Rogers' Neighborhood?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Well, I sang obviously in Pittsburgh. I was in graduate school at Carnegie Mellon.
Yeah.
And I had the church job to raise money in order for me to live, my expenses and all that. So I got the job at Third Presbyterian Church.
Yeah.
Which was one of the churches that had a high reputation for paying well and doing great music, so that you'll enjoy the experience of being in that choir, which was an excellent church choir. And the director, John Lively, was a man who loved my voice. When I would audition for him, he started playing the piano and improvising something that I had planned to sing a cappella. Well, his accompaniment was simply superb. It was so gentle and it was appropriate. And I thought, well, I'll be darned. This guy, he had a reputation for being Mr. Mean, but he was not mean to me, not at all. And so he hired me on the spot.
Wow.
And make a long story short, I did a concert on Good Friday of all American Negro spirituals. And Fred Rogers came to that presentation.
Wow.
And when it was over, he came up, he said, I would like to meet this young man and talk with you. And would you have lunch with me sometime? Well, I thought that's fine, but as long as you pay, Mr. Rogers, I can't afford to go to lunch and, I had my food at home. You know, I was a graduate student,
Yeah.
and I ate in the student union and things like that. But I didn't go to any restaurants at all.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh yes, don't worry, I'll take care of it." Well, we arrived for a lunch at approximately noon, 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I swear, 2 o'clock later, 2 hours later, we were still sitting there talking. I was talking, and he was listening. Fred is an introvert, and I'm an extrovert. It's a union made in heaven, in the stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was so polite and so kind, and he made me feel that he was really interested in me and interested in what I had to say. So I talked to him, and I found myself opening up to this man in a way that I had never really done with anybody else. And so 2 hours later, he said, "I've got to go back to the office. Would you like to come with me? It's in the studios of WQED."
Yeah.
And he said, "I think you'll find it interesting." And that was my first introduction. He took me back to the studio to Lady Elaine Fairchild and King Friday and Queen Sarah and Exy Owl and Henrietta Pussycat and Daniel Tiger. But, you know, he had all these puppets.
Yeah.
And what is Matt, what's our puppet's name?
Marty Monster.
That's Marty Monster.
Marty Monster. Well,
Yes.
they weren't monsters like Marty, but they were little
No.
hand puppets.
Yeah.
And they
That's
were
right.
Yeah, they were.
very friendly. Oh, and Jake, who have you got there?
It's Bean.
That's Bean.
I got Norman over there. I'll bring him out later.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord! Everybody's got a puppet.
Me and
Yeah.
Chris do too.
Yeah.
Chris has one too.
Yeah. He's wrong.
Mine's
Oh,
Rustin.
you know, that's so interesting because I very much like puppets now, but I did not like them when I was in 68, 69
Oh wow.
when I met Fred. It was unusual for an adult man to have a puppet and to talk and
Yeah.
stuff. And
Yeah.
he was doing all these different voices, and I had just met him, and I thought, what kind of a guy is this? So even though I was suspicious of him, his kindness won out. He took me up to his office, and he introduced me to the people that he worked with, and they were just singularly wonderful to me. Every single person was kind and invited me to come and be a part of their production. The thing was, evidently Fred had already talked about me and told them that he heard me sing, and so his goal was to invite me to do a guest appearance on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I came onto the show as a singer-actor before, and after a couple of shows, that's when Fred said, "I would like to give you a role where you're on all the time," and that would be Officer Clemmons.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh wow.
It's awesome.
That's
So, so we kind of talked about like what it was like, kind of, you know, meeting him for the first time. But overall, like, what was it like, you know, working with him for so many years?
Well, it was a supreme experience. I mean, I had no intentions of being in television when I was at Oberlin or when I went to my first year of graduate school. I thought this was just going to be a one-time thing.
Yeah.
And then I would go on with my singing and my other auditions and performances and what have you. But this man kept inviting me to come back.
Yeah.
And so I learned something about him, that when he gave his word, he kept it. Because for a while, I didn't have a written contract. He just called and said, "I want to do several programs on this subject, and I would like for you to be a part of it. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Well, yes, I would be very interested." Because, you know, that was a great way to make money. And to go to a studio and to be with this man and the puppets and the other visitors. So I got used to talking to the puppets, and I met the other members, human members of the cast, Lady Aberlin, Mr. McFeely, Joe Negri, and the other characters. I got to know them. They were just wonderful. And after a couple of years, believe it or not, I moved to New York, but then I realized that I was coming back to Pittsburgh fairly often.
Amazing place.
To film. And so I I said, this feels like family. This is where I belong. And my attitude about the program changed totally.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
so that's what it was like working with Fred. He was a wonderful person almost all the time. And he always took time to listen. He was patient. And he became a surrogate father to me. There were so many issues that I was going through. I write about it in the book. I really pray that you guys will take the time and read it.
Oh, for sure, definitely.
Oh, absolutely.
Because there are some things that I talk about that are very intense.
Yeah.
And they're meant to help you to understand what I was going through
Yeah.
and how he related to me in such a fatherly way, in such an understanding way that, being friends with him was a healing for me. The things that were wrong or hurt, he had a gift of healing.
Yeah.
Because for one thing, he wanted to. And that was interesting to me that he wanted to be a caretaker for me. And he said, if you have a problem, you can always talk to me.
Yeah.
And so I did. I learned to call him. Oh, when I saw him, we spent time together. It was a big help to me. I know that there were things that I shared with him and I talked about that he had no idea what it was like before. But he was open. That's how he was open to me. And I told him about the ghetto. He was in the white ghetto and I was in the black ghetto.
Yeah.
And, there was a lot of differences and assumptions that he had about the good life that I did not have because I hadn't had that as a boy.
Yeah.
So it was very, very wonderful over the long run. I loved the operas. He wrote the operas, and he would almost always write a special part for me. I would arrive, either I'd get it in the mail or I'd go to Pittsburgh, and there was this, Bubble Land, or the what was some of the cows and potato bugs, and other unusual combinations. I love doing those operas, but also because John Reardon, who's a great singer, lived in Manhattan. He was a friend of Fred's from college, and John Reardon would come and he would sing with us, and we all admired John very much because he was totally professional, but very, very warm and a very nice person.
Nice.
He definitely is, and it's crazy to think that the magic's still around. For example, the set is actually at the Hynes Museum.
Yeah,
and of course, with the show being spun off into Daniel Tiger's neighborhood, I think the magic is definitely kept alive.
Yeah, and here's the question:
in the sense that the characters are still alive.
Yeah,
of course.
Here's the question: I'm curious
movie
about this.
between 19 and 2.
Yes.
We know
That's
Donkey Hoodie's still around. They brought back Mr. McFeely as animator. If they ever ask you to come back to, like, for example, Donkey Hoodie, would you do it?
Yes, if they asked me, I would. I'm still a performer.
Yeah, they should.
And I think it would be a very positive thing. It was not, something that I did not do or didn't want to do. If they called me today, we'd work out the dates, and I would go back. I think it's filmed in Pittsburgh. I don't really know anymore, but I do know they do the Daniel Tiger neighborhood in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
amazing series.
I know Donkey Hoodie. They filmed it in Chicago.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
in Chicago
yeah.
because
In Chicago.
Well, I fly to Chicago.
there you go.
All they have to do is give me a call.
It's in Chicago, and the reason I know it's in
So
Chicago
we
is
sent an
Matt
audition
actually
tape.
auditioned for it.
Yeah, I sent in an audition tape for that, and I'm hoping to hear it back. It's something we'd love to do. Oh yeah.
Don Quixote?
Yeah,
Donkey.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what you do?
Such amazing
You know what you
show.
do? I figured this out. If Matt forgets the part that he just mentioned to you, bring him back.
Oh, listen, well, good luck. I hope that they write to you and say
I hope so.
that you can come and be on the show.
I
And
hope
you
so. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
That'd be wonderful.
It is. Matt, I know Marty asked a question, but how about you ask one?
Yeah, why don't you ask one, human? Jeez, thanks.
Mark,
Do you have any? You worked on the show for so many years, but do you have any specific fond memories from working on Mr. Rogers?
That's an interesting question for me because, first of all, I loved all the operas. We were talking about that. The Spoon Mountain and Cows and Potato Bugs, and all of them like that. However, probably my most famous and most endearing moment was the scene behind us, where
yeah.
Mr. Rogers and our feet
Yeah.
are in the water.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, such a
Yes,
classic.
On YouTube.
Very
I
iconic.
rewatched that scene actually a couple days ago,
Same.
kind of prepping for this.
Who
So,
doesn't
yeah.
know that?
Very
Very
iconic.
powerful.
Very, very classic and very,
Yes, very powerful.
very
moment.
wholesome moment
Yeah.
in the show's
Exactly.
history.
Yeah.
I think we need more of that. And you know,
We do.
Oh,
I-
yes.
we
Oh, for
filmed
sure.
it twice. We filmed it in 1968 and again in 1993 or 92. It was like that.
93.
Yeah, something like
93.
that.
I was about to leave the program because my schedule with the Harlem Spiritual Ensemble
Oh wow.
was so intense, and I was so happy to be doing that, traveling all over the world with the Harlem Spiritual Ensemble, singing American Negro spirituals.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the arrangements I had done through working with the members of the group. We worked together, and then we would come up with a special arrangement just for us. But it was the idea that this was my dream come true, the circumstances that had to come together in order for me to find the singers and eventually to get a manager and a booking agent. All of that, it happened over a period of time. It did not happen all at once, believe me. And I had to constantly figure out creative ways for us to make money and to keep the singers because they had to make a living. And it took me about 2 years before there was enough engagements that I could keep us busy because I sang and I managed the company. And it was, even though it was my dream come true, it was a lot of work and a lot of stress. One of the problems was, traveling is okay if you do it once in a while, but if you have to be on the road all the time.
Yeah, it can be very difficult.
No, it's not very romantic. All that about the stars and the sunsets. Most of the time I was resting up so that I would have the energy to go back on stage.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And, or, we had to get up at 4:00 in the morning
Wow.
after a concert. And if you're in Japan or someplace where the airport is a long way outside of Tokyo, like 2 hours, or even New York, Kennedy Airport, it's quite a distance from downtown Manhattan. So I got accustomed to that in many cities. And I kept the suitcase packed because you never knew when you were going to get a call to do some kind of a guest appearance. And that to me was part of the deal. It was nothing bad, but I also had to deal with putting together special programs for Christmas or for Easter or for Black History Month, that kind of stuff. And then I'd have to choose things that my singers could sing, that they wanted to sing, that they were happy to sing. And then, we also did a special program where we took excerpts of Porgy and Bess, and we did the whole opera in excerpts. And that was one of the high points for me. I love doing that. But it was busy. And it didn't always allow me a chance to slow down. And there's a lot of stress on when contracts were going to be signed. And if they were going to be signed for enough money, and how to make sure I got per diems to my singers to take care of them. Those things were a little bit stressful. And in those days, we sent not Xeroxes, not faxes.
Yeah.
I would arrive at a hotel and there'd be 10 faxes for me, details, stuff that I needed to know so that we could progress smoothly. And it was like everybody else got to rest, and I did not. I'm not complaining, but boy, that's the stress. And it was one of the things I was not sorry to stop doing around 2000 when I got the offer to come to Middlebury to be the artist in residence and to teach music. And I thought, Lord, this is the opportunity. I was having health problems, in terms of my body just being very tired. I was not taking care of myself. I was not eating properly. And it's really difficult. I've seen some other performers talk about taking their food with them on the road. And I really think that's a sterling idea. I wish I had done more of that, because a lot of times in the daytime, it was too early to have dinner if the restaurant wasn't open. And at night, after the concert, if you really wanted to go and eat and have a good meal and all that, there were times when the restaurants all closed up. Everything was closed. And so that had to be in the contract and an addendum as to how they were going to feed us after concerts.
Yeah.
Very, very important.
Yes, definitely. But yeah, back to what you said about that we need more like that. I definitely agree, because in my opinion, a lot of the kids shows that are on nowadays are kind of like in your face, and Mr. Rogers wasn't.
Exactly. Bring him back.
It was a very simple but very wholesome,
Bring it back.
heartfelt like show.
I feel like it would come back. Like, I mean, we got Don Quixote and Daniel Tiger. I mean, bring it back with somebody else. For example, get Tom Hanks to do it. He did.
Let me
amazing
ask
in the
you a
movie.
question.
Right.
Okay, my question is, how would you feel if there was a black Mr. Rogers?
I'd be okay with it.
I'd be perfectly
fine with it.
you know,
everyone's special in their own ways. You know.
Yeah.
I think that's what the producers and promoters of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood should think about. It would definitely be a different show. It would be Officer Clemmons' Neighborhood.
Do it.
And I would certainly want to have.
I would.
That'd be a great idea.
I'd be-
You know, some of the same friends. I would like to use some of the same songs. I would also introduce other songs
Yeah.
and
Right.
other friends to come
Yeah.
to Officer Clemmons' Neighborhood. Okay, you put the word out
Keep
there.
the legacy
Tell
going.
We will.
You know.
All right.
We'll do
Yeah.
it.
Anyway.
We'll do it.
I feel
Yes.
like it would
Generation.
definitely
Future
work. 'Cause
generations.
The Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood movie.
Put it on
insanely
Facebook.
amazing. And
Yeah.
it captured it. It
Yeah,
captured
That
definitely.
movie is just amazing.
We'll put it on
I watched that
Facebook.
movie like almost 5
And I
times
think
now.
because
Amazing
especially
movie.
like in recent times, you know, diversity is definitely an important thing that kind of needs to be
Yeah.
discussed and
Definitely.
shown. And I think having a black Mr. Rogers, you know,
Call him
spinoff would, you know, I think it would
That'd be a great
definitely do really
idea.
well. It would be an amazing idea.
Yeah.
I
It
thought
would
about it
definitely
a
work.
couple of times, and also because since I have the organic connection with Fred Rogers, I would be a potential powerful link to his philosophy
Yeah.
and his manner of teaching. There's a certain gentle quietness about Fred, and I can certainly sing better than he could. He mostly talked. He didn't try to sing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely would work. The 2018 movie, I think it was, worked
Yeah.
amazing. Tom Hanks did amazing doing that.
Oh yes.
Well, I wouldn't want Tom Hanks there because I don't want a Broadway, Hollywood star. I would
Right.
rather have, if he wanted to come in as a guest, great, because I admire him very much.
Yeah,
also.
but you'd want someone
yeah.
who had that like special connection with Fred, someone who, you know,
Bring
was
you on.
there for the,
Oh yes.
you know,
I
the
think-
history
If it
throughout the show.
was to happen, because he's still doing it, Mr. Feely has to come back, aka David Newell, because he still did it. He did it.
Oh,
in
are you
Daniel-
kidding? Not a problem.
He did it. in Tiger
Not for
Neighborhood.
me, it would be a problem because I talk to him on the phone from time to time.
Mm.
Yeah.
And Mr. McFeely has a phenomenal memory.
We need to get him.
Oh, that,
We need to book him on here.
Who could remember all the things
That
that he would know. And I know he probably has a lot of, what do you call it, tchotchkes at his house that belong, you know, to his memories of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Wow.
Wow, that is
If I
He
did
needs
the
to.
show,
We gotta
cool.
find him somehow.
I'd have him
Tell
come
me
on,
if
but
you
I'd
want.
have him bring some of those things to show.
We have to. We have to get him on.
that'd
Here.
be cool.
Yeah, we would love to have him on this show.
Yeah, and I gotta say this. You mentioned that. So his tricycle's actually at the museum. If you look online, it's on
Yeah.
the website. Okay, Mr.
Well, I've
Garcia.
been to that museum.
Awesome.
It's amazing.
5 or 6
Yes.
times.
Yeah,
And,
Wow.
the Heinz Museum on the 4th floor in Pittsburgh.
yeah.
I gave them my Officer Clemmons jacket,
Oh
and they have
wow.
it
I
on
need to go back
display
now.
there.
That,
Wow.
that is awesome. I definitely
That
want
is
to check it out one
amazing.
day.
It's on the
That's
website
awesome.
probably.
So I might call myself Officer Clemmons, but I wouldn't come back on the show as Officer Clemmons. I'd want to
Right.
be more
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
So it would be the Diva Man's neighborhood, or
I mean,
Yeah,
whoever the Mr. Rogers Company. Listen here, Officer
Yeah.
Francois wants to do it. Do it.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I think it's time.
I love
Oh
it.
yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I need it.
This may be a tricky question to answer, but do you have a favorite Mr. Rogers episode and song? Obviously, there were so many, but
yeah.
There are many ways.
Yeah, I knew it.
To say I love you.
Yes.
There are many ways to say I care about you. Many ways, many ways to say I love you.
Amazing.
There's the singing way to say I love you. There's the singing something special that someone would like to hear. The singing way, the singing way, the singing way to say I love you.
Amazing.
Oh my goodness.
Is it Han? He's
That
the
just
second
made the
guest
rest
to
of my
serenade
day.
us. Bill Harder was the first, if I'm right.
That's right.
Yeah.
I haven't warmed up yet, so it's a little rough there.
That's okay. No, that was, oh my
It's
gosh.
okay.
That was
That was
amazing.
That was
amazing.
wonderful.
That was
And then, of course,
wonderful.
Good Feeling, I think is what it's called.
Yes.
Which is the ending.
Yeah. Well, see, I think I have that connection with the original Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood that would make the transition to doing a black version of Officer Clemmons. I mean, of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood be pretty. I think it'd be very smooth. But the guys in Pittsburgh are very busy with Daniel's Neighborhood and Don Quixote. In Matthew, they also had the black Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Yeah.
Whenever they're not busy, call them, please.
You said it already. The idea of
we'll talk to
diversity.
David Newell about it if we get him on.
The benefits of having a diverse situation, I think, is outstanding, and our culture is crying for it.
They need it.
It wants more
Yeah.
and more. So
Definitely.
I put myself in a position that I began to think about this 6 or 8 months ago. What if there was a black Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood? What would that look like? And you guys would have to come on as guests.
I'll do it.
I'd be down. I would be down.
No, you know what you
Let's do
do?
it.
You know
We'd
what you
absolutely
do?
do
If
it.
the original, bring new characters, and Matt can portray one of the characters because Mr. Rogers is not allowed to do X or anything. Matt could be the new X the Owl.
There you go.
So X was one of my favorite characters.
I do
love
it.
X.
Needs a little practice, but sure.
And
You know what you do?
And because Matt, of course, has experience with puppetry, he could.
Matt, you know what
he
you do?
could definitely puppeteer
You
one
know
of the
what you
neighborhood
do?
make believe.
You bring you and Brandon on.
Yeah, one of our previous guests.
One of our previous guests who works for Sesame now.
What's his name?
His name is Brandon Smith.
Brandon Smith. He's one of our dear friends. And now he works as a puppeteer for Sesame Street.
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Very talented young man.
Well, you know, Fred Rogers had several of the guests. Big Bird.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Miss Piggy. There were several of the puppets that came to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Which is
Also,
amazing.
Captain Kangaroo. Unfortunately, Captain Kangaroo is dead. But that was a highlight for me because I grew up watching Captain Kangaroo.
Yeah.
So when Fred said, "Oh, France, you must come to the studio because Captain Kangaroo is going to be there," you better believe I got there, and I was just nervous all over it. It's like, you know, other people grew up with Fred Rogers. I grew up with the Captain Kangaroo.
Yeah.
Anyway, I know some wonderful actors and singers and dancers up here in Vermont and in Boston and New York who I would invite to come on the program as guests so that we could
do it. And Matt, you know, he could also bring, so you can have the voice of Henrietta, because I feel like she could do it. Bring Alexrigo.
Another friend, another dear friend of ours. That would be awesome. That'd be great.
You guys know a lot of people.
Well, we know quite
a lot of people. Like, you want to be interested in Mr. Rogers? Like, yes.
We've known quite a few people the last couple of years. Yeah.
So
has more puppeteer friends than we do.
Yeah. So did you ever think that you would have as big of an impact, not just in children's television, but to society as a whole?
Never. It still is a surprise to me. I'll tell you the truth. I can't go to the grocery store, and I'm in Vermont. So this is not a big, intense community.
Yeah.
Right.
If I go on to the grocery store, to the hardware store, to get gas. I pull the car and someone would pull up next to me and say, "Hi, Officer Clemmons." They still call me.
That's awesome.
And,
wow.
and, you know, and if I go into a store to buy something and I say, "Do you have this? Do you have that?" or whatever, and she says, "No, but we can get it for you tomorrow." So I said, "Okay, I'll leave my name and my number." She said, "Oh, we already know who you are, sir." Over and over. That's been a gift. So everywhere I go, I have to be on my best behavior.
Yeah.
I bet.
Oh my god.
That's amazing just meeting you.
Oh.
But, you know,
And you know, another thing, I want to get out again because I've got all my shots and I've got the 2 boosters.
Yeah.
And I can still sing a song. So I'd like to get out of here and go do some engagements.
Donkey Hody, if you're watching
Sure,
this, call him up. He'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, or Daniel Tiger's neighborhood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that? I thought that was ending soon.
I didn't hear anything about ending. No,
I didn't hear anything about ending. I know,
all right, then bring him on as animated.
Yeah,
I know Donkey Hody starting season 2. I think that's airing sometime next year.
Yeah. So Jake, why don't you ask the next
go Jake.
question?
Do you still keep in touch with anyone from Mr. Rogers?
Well, Mr. McFeely.
You know what
I'm
we'll
in touch
do?
with him, and I'm also in touch with Joe Negri.
Yeah.
He occasionally responds to Facebook stuff.
Chris, there you go.
And there are a couple of other people from the program who I hear from, but
we
the
need to
main
get
one that
Mr. McFeely. We need to get Mr. McFeely on.
Yeah,
definitely. Totally. And then the other one is Lady Aberlin, because she and I are
we're getting her.
But she's a hermit. She hides away now. And she has other things that she wants to do, which of course is fine. But if I did a black program of François Clemmons' neighborhood, I would ask Lady Aberlin to come back to visit me.
Yeah.
And we would sing some songs from our Mr. Rogers days. It would be a nostalgic get together.
Do it.
Of course, there's also Chuck Aber, who was also really amazing.
I know Chuck, but I'm not in touch with him, and I think he's in Pittsburgh. We'd have to find out where he is, what he's been doing, because there was Chuck and there was Maggie Stewart. So I worked with them, and I think that we could all work something out. In fact, it was interesting.
Definitely.
Come on, bring back the original cast.
Chuck is a tenor. And Fred arranged for the 2 of us to do some duets together. He would do the high voice, and I did the second. And then I did the high voice, and he did the second. It was a very, very interesting combination of our 2 voices.
Really nice.
Yeah, we have to get some of those people like Handyman Negri. I know David would do it, as he has done other podcasts.
Yeah.
We just have to find a producer. A producer will have to be responsible for raising the money.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. Speaking of podcasts, you and David were actually guests on Purple Roads, but that's amazing podcast.
Yes.
Well, like I say, we need to put the word out that we need another.
Come on.
Rogers neighborhood, so that we can have a different bunch of guests, and we'd sing Mr. Rogers songs, but some new songs as well. And I don't know. I'd call it. We need to think of a good.
It could be Mr. Clemmons' neighborhood.
They call me Diva Man, so I might call that Diva Land.
Diva Land.
That is amazing.
I like that.
I like that too.
Yeah.
And I know we're talking about the stuff. Corny is still around. He's actually in the museum.
Yeah.
Corny is still around.
Yeah, bring him back.
Still around.
Voice.
I'm sure we have worked something out with the museum people. They were very, very nice. I filmed a special for for CBS television called Note to Self.
Yes.
And it was filmed there in Pittsburgh in the Heinz Museum.
Yeah.
But I'd like to go back to WQED and film our neighborhood right there again. There'd be many people still around who were involved with the program.
We need to talk to some of them.
Yeah.
We'll talk to some of them.
We'd be up for it.
We'd be up for it. Fly us out. Okay.
Fly us out.
Yeah.
Bring Brandon on.
Yeah. So this is another thing we talked about a little earlier, but so can you tell us a bit more about your autobiography, Officer Clemmons, a Memoir?
Well, you all know that I'm openly gay, and that was one of the thorny issues with Mr. Rogers. So I felt it was important to talk about what my life was like when I could not be openly gay. And so that people would understand I was there and I was functioning, I was doing things, but I could not have a lover or have an open gay relationship. And that was very, very difficult for me. I never had a date because I went from being a 13, 14, 15-year-old gay person who went to college and then went to graduate school. And when I look back, it's like a very important part of my life was taken away from me. It never happened because that's how people become socialized. Men learn to relate to whoever they're in love with, and women get to relate to whoever they love with. And I mean this very seriously. I never kissed a man that I loved or liked for all of those years. And I'm a very sensitive, empathetic person, but I felt it was too dangerous to the program for me to have a relationship that other people would talk about. And then Fred Rogers would say, well, we can't have an openly gay person on the program, Francois. And I understood that. The times are vastly different now. I mean, tremendously.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm so grateful. And I wish he had lived long enough to see and to hear. So in my biography, I tried to share that with people. A gay person is just a regular guy trying to make a living, paying the bills, and having personal relationships. So I write about that. At the same time, I talk about the fact that I'm a musician and a singer with a gift. And, the most important thing was singing and relating to people that way. But a very important part of me was also as a teacher, as a mentor. I learned from Fred. When I came to Middlebury College, I found that there were kids who were very needful of affection and care and sensitivity. And I drew those students to me. And I based a lot of that on the love that I got from Fred Rogers, unconditional love. And my job was to give it unconditionally to those who came to me. They needed understanding. They needed a place that they felt at home, particularly, international students who come here, even as simple as Jamaica or Haiti, or then they come from Senegal or Zimbabwe, South Africa, and they didn't have any family here. They were students. So I began to feel that that group of American students and international students became my family. And I'm writing about that now because I'm writing a second book. The first book was very successful. Oh, nice. It's still selling. But I'm writing a second book now, which will explain even more what I was doing, where I went, who I met. I think it's another important chapter. So that keeps me busy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Matt, why don't you ask the next? Go
Sure. You had brought up the Harlem Spiritual Ensemble earlier. How did that come about?
Well, I was with Fred Rogers, and we were traveling around America.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I saw where there was a Mendelssohn Society, a Bach opera, Bach aria society, Liszt Music Society, Schubert Society, all these wonderful musical organizations that did special presentations of works by these authors. And I said, people sing spirituals at home and church and colleges, but that's like, in baseball, you have the college and level, then you have the next level, which leads to Major League Baseball. The same thing that leads to the NFL, and the same thing that leads to senior basketball. Well, we didn't have anything, in my opinion, in music that helped a young singer graduate to an organization like the Harlem Spiritual Ensemble. So that's how I saw that we needed the next level, because my singers were mature, they were intelligent, they were very talented, and I felt had a message also for the world. And so I felt that I had been called to bring us together and encourage everyone to put their ego aside, and let's make this a very special experience for everybody. And I'm telling you, everywhere we went, it was a profound success. I loved it. I did it for 20 years. And the only reason I stopped doing it is that, for one thing, my health, traveling was very difficult for me. Secondly, it was financially driving me crazy. The money that needed to be raised to keep any arts organization, and there are many of them who cannot. They have to cancel a season or postpone a season or arrange a season, and I was having so much trouble keeping it going. It was just too much for me. And then I did not have a serious private life. I worked all the time. I was a workaholic. And I felt that I needed to pay some attention to my own personal needs. So when the job came to Middlebury, I thought, oh my goodness, yes, let's try that. And we tried it for 2 years and it worked out. And they asked me to stay. And I worked it out with the ensemble that we would bring my relationship to a close. I've had a number of people ask me, let's start it again. Let's start the Harlem Spiritual Ensemble. And I want to say this very clearly. I like the idea, but nobody has offered any money. Let's see the first $100,000 that I'm going to have to need to pull people together to come down to like New York and get some kind of residence and pay people to start coming to rehearsals. That's the kind of, I need either a sugar daddy or some tremendous grant. There are grants that would make that happen, but otherwise, that ain't gonna happen anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think so. But needless to say, it was my dream come true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jake, why don't you ask?
Next. What would you say is the most difficult part about acting and singing?
Well, I'm not shy.
Yeah.
I think that if people are shy, it may be difficult for them to go out on the stage. However, I have a couple of friends who are excellent, world-class musicians, singers, performers. When they go out on stage, they told me that they go out, they put on a different persona. It's like being in the opera and being a character. Mm-hmm. And that is what allows them to go out there and, be with the public and not be afraid or hesitant. So that's the thing that I love doing it. I love preparing for it as well. What I'm sorry about is that you have to be like a superstar in order to really make a fantastic living. And opera singers in our culture it's not quite the same. No matter how hard we are, regardless of how much we're prepared. Most of my friends teach. They teach on the college level, or some of them have their private studios in their home. I wanted to still perform, but it just wasn't meant to be. And some of it was racial, and some of it was just, I got tired of waiting and I looked around for something else to do.
Yeah.
I had many very, very good auditions when I was not hired. And I began to ask why. Why is it that I'm not getting hired? And the thing that kept coming up was that I was Black, and some of the people felt that opera theaters in Oklahoma or Missouri or even Kentucky and those places would not want a Black man singing opposite a white woman. Now they could have hired a Black man and a Black woman if they can sing the parts.
Yeah.
But I began to have those problems, and so I realized that as much as that was a dream come true, it was very, very difficult.
There you go.
So, was there anything at all challenging about being on Mr. Rogers?
Well, there's some not big things, but little things.
Yeah.
For example, I had to. They had to have a special light for me because my skin absorbs the light, and white people's skin repels the light. So I had to have special places. They would mark the floor. That wasn't a hard thing to do, but I had to know my way around. And my colleagues were very helpful they knew I had to be at a spot. They helped me get on that spot. So the light would hit me right. That's not a very big deal. But I learned the songs. I loved when Fred wrote something, especially for me. And I love traveling to Pittsburgh to do it. I wish the show were still going on, but
I do too.
Right.
It's not in my hands, so it was not a horrible thing, or to try to sit here and pick it apart. I didn't make a great living at it because I didn't do it all the time, and so that's why I did Porgy and Bess. I did the Harlem Spiritual Ensemble, and I did a large variety of things, and that I think is actually one of my strengths that I had. I was such a versatile performer.
Yeah.
Nice.
Why don't you ask the next?
Can you share anything you're working on currently, or should I say now?
Yes, the book I told you I'm writing. And it's dealing with my mentorship of other people. Fred Rogers mentored me, and I feel that it's my destiny now to pass that on to other kids. So I had students, I call them my cosmic children.
Yeah.
And my cosmic children come to see me. Sometimes they call, sometimes they don't. I heard from them on whether it's Father's Day, Mother's Day,
it is.
birthday, and every holiday. Juneteenth, I heard from several. My cosmic children are from all over the world. And that's one reason I'm very grateful to Facebook, because many of them have Facebook where they live. And, they don't have all the extra things when it comes to sending an email and stuff.
Yeah.
We connect on Facebook. They get married. They send me a invitation. One of my boys got married in India. He has a baby son. He puts up pictures. If you say, what am I working on? I'm a surrogate parent, and I have sons down in New Mexico. I have a couple of daughters down there. North Carolina, New York City, Long Island, Brooklyn. I have children all over the place.
Yeah.
And Facebook makes it possible for us to continue to stay in touch.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. So what would you like to say to your fans and supporters?
Wow. Well, it's a new experience for me to speak so special like this about that. I don't think of them as fans. I think of them more as friends, or someone said neighbors or buddies. That's more of what I feel. I still perform. I want people to know that. And I can come to their neighborhood if they contact my my website, which is www.FrancoisClemmons.net.
Yeah.
So anyone,
we'll put it in the description.
Yeah, they can get a hold of me, and I would be very happy.
Website.
Yep.
Yeah, that's my website. I can come to your neighborhood.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, do you have any advice for people who want to get into singing, or who wants to be a part of an opera?
Or acting?
Well, there are a lot of community theaters around America. I think we have a very, very good situation, but you have to find community theaters that want to do what I would consider light musicals or Broadway shows. And that's one way you could get started if you're interested in the theater, because it's not just wanting to. You got to learn how to move around the stage. You have to be able to learn music. If kids want to be musicians, parents bring them to me and says, she has a beautiful voice. He has a beautiful voice. And I say to them, give them piano lessons or some instrument. And if they stick with that, then by the time they're 15 or 16, their voices will be mature enough that they could take some voice lessons, either to get ready to go to college or to go to a large city where you can audition and get into shows. It's such an individual thing. Some people win competitions like that. America's Got Talent.
Yes.
We actually have.
There are people
who was on it.
Who?
Michael Paul, who was on it, but he didn't win in a previous show episode.
It was on a couple seasons ago.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to win in order to get
right.
It's a good place to get experience and to meet other people who are trying to get into the theater.
Exactly.
I really suggest that people do community theaters before they come to New York.
There you go.
Yes.
New York
there you go.
is
Perfect.
a
You've done that.
It's intense
Yeah.
theater.
Yeah.
If you're ready for that, fine. If you're not, it can be very destructive because you're just not ready for it.
Yeah.
So, if people would like to contact you, where can people find you? Other than your website, of course, which you mentioned.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got too many friends on Facebook. I've got 5,000.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
people are still asking, can they become friends of mine? So
Yeah.
the other thing is just to go on, what's it called?
Instagram.
Instagram. Yes.
I do follow you.
What's the other one?
Instagram, Twitter.
Instagram.
Yeah. Those two, Instagram and Twitter. And I begun to check it more now. That's a new thing for
That's
me.
good.
Nice. I do follow you
I've
on
begun
Instagram.
to check Instagram and Twitter to see who's writing stuff and who's saying things and saying this and saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did follow you before the interview and stuff like that.
You
Nice.
did?
Yeah.
Did you?
Mhm. Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you?
Same. I got to
That's
go
great.
on
Yeah, me
Instagram
too.
more often.
Yeah.
Was it boring?
No. Can I say this? If you want fun, check out Bingel Live.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
we do shows all the time.
because Matt and
Matt is keeping the childhood.
Matt
stuff
and Marty
alive.
and Julius, one of his other
Where is he?
characters,
He's
they
absent right
they
now.
do
He's
these
here.
like
He's
Instagram
here.
live streams with a bunch of their other puppetry friends. And
We'll
it's
get
amazing.
him. We'll get him real quick if you
All
want.
right,
Yes,
there-
send me a
while he
link.
does that,
Yeah,
while he does
you
that, I
said
should ask
Clemens-
another question.
My
Hey,
email is clemens@middlebury.edu.
yeah.
Right.
So
That's
If
awesome.
you send me a link, oh wow, who's that?
Oh,
Julius.
hi.
That's
My name's
Julius.
Julius.
Hello,
That's
Julius.
Hi,
Oh,
Julius.
Hi. Very honored to meet you.
Hey, well, I'm honored to meet you too. Look, you got those big eyes.
Yeah, they're quite big.
You know what he gets called a lot? He gets called Snuffy because of the nose.
I do.
Yeah,
I
he gets
do get
compared
called
to
Snuffy a lot.
Snuffy from Sesame Street.
Snuffy.
Norman's hanging out over there. Also.
Yeah, I get called that a lot. I'm used to it. at this
There's
point.
my
Chris,
puppet.
There's Puppet Chris.
Mhm.
Oh,
Hey, there
my
he is.
God, look
There
at
he is.
Snuffy, and then look at
Puppet
Chris.
Chris.
Yeah,
Look at
Puppet
Puppet
Chris.
Chris.
Yep.
Norman's
Puppet
over
Chris.
there hanging out.
Everybody, Wyatt, where's your baby?
I thought we were it's not a puppet interview,
He's
guys.
sleeping.
Yeah, where's your baby?
I had the better thing.
His baby's sleeping now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway,
Baby
so
sleeping.
Oh Lord,
Anyway.
you guys are. It's great chatting with you. I'm gonna have to let you go.
yeah, yeah. But before we do, why don't you ask the last question?
yeah, because that wasn't stupid
Yeah.
internet issue last time.
Yeah.
So the podcast Jake's Up Nostalgia Show. When you think of nostalgia, what do you think of, or what does nostalgia mean to you, or how do you define it?
Well, it's remembering what you did when you were younger.
Yeah,
Some of the experiences that I went through in the 50s and 60s and 70s.
yeah,
Nostalgia doesn't mean that it's perfect or that I'm rejecting the world today. It just simply means something wonderful happened, like when I won the Metropolitan Opera auditions, or when I got asked to be on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, or when I started the Harlem Spiritual Ensemble, or when I got for a musical,
yeah,
the Grammy Award.
Yes.
That's nostalgia. Remembering that.
Yeah, what?
Remembering how Mr. Rogers and I used to walk and talk. And we used to talk about the Bible a lot. He was a ordained Presbyterian minister. And that's nostalgic to me. I miss having someone like him to have those discussions.
yeah.
No one can be
thing
like
that-
him ever again.
Norman's out here now.
He's-
The things that he wanted to talk
person.
about, I wanted to talk about too. So
And I did bring Norman out.
Yeah, there's Wyatt.
Oh, there he is.
Norman.
Hello.
There's,
There he is.
Hello,
yeah.
Norman.
thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you very much,
so
Francois.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you
You're
to
worth
all of our viewers and listeners for watching. Remember, you're worth it. And to
Stay nostalgic.
Yes.
Goodbye.
and to stay
All
nos-
right, put out the
Stay
word,
nostalgic.
everybody.
You're worth
Hello,
it.
Mr. Rogers'
Joey.
Neighborhood.
And
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
All
say
you
this
guys
too.
want to come on with your babies.
Yes, we definitely will. We'll definitely will.
Thank you so
have you
much.
back on in the future, and we'll hope to have you on.
Yeah, Francois, thank you so much.
I look forward. Yes.
Have you and David on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for you being part of our childhoods, and I'm glad for
take care, Francois, and to all of our
and everything.
Thanks a lot.
Take care, Francois, and to all of our viewers and listeners. You are worth it, and stay nostalgic, everyone.
Bye.
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 See you next time on another episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, where nostalgia comes alive. Be sure to follow us on social media and stream us wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And as always, remember that you are worth it and to always stay nostalgic. Bye-bye.